Jeremiah Wright and made it out that Jeremiah Wright is some racist. Most people don't know what Jeremiah Wright looks like. Jeremiah Wright is nominally black if you looked at him. Frankly, uh, Jeremiah Wright is the same complexion as Joe Biden. Jeremiah Wright, a terrible racist, a man that's nominally black. Just looking at, if he carried himself differently, you wouldn't know whether he was Italian or Irish or Spanish or French, Portuguese or Slav or Frenchman or German. He's not a dark person at any stretch of the imagination. Jeremiah Wright is very, very light skinned. If Jeremiah Wright wanted to pass himself off as white, he could do it. And maybe some of us are saying he's not white, he's lying. He could have passed had he wanted to. So how do you, Obama, a person who's supposedly biracial, call a black person who's just nominally black, looking at him yourself, a racist? How? Did Jeremiah Wright ever say that white people were inferior to black people? And mind you, as white as Jeremiah Wright looks, how would he look calling white people inferior when he looked like a white person? He probably wouldn't do it because it wouldn't work out for him. That was a signal that Obama was not for black people. Jeremiah Wright was attacked. Obama has never, in fact, Audacity of Hope, the title of his book, is ripped off of a sermon that Jeremiah Wright has. He used the authenticity, they used the spiritual, social equity of people in Chicago to build this monster who turned his back on Obama. I'm sorry, to turn his back on Jeremiah Wright. And that Obama's now out of office. Has he ever gone back and said hello to Dr. Wright? Or Dr. Wright, please pardon me? Or Dr. Wright, I'm sorry. When the Chicago police were trying to find out who murdered 3 black men potentially romantically involved with Barack Obama, do you know that Jeremiah Wright didn't use his weight to help the police find out who or why these gay men allegedly in relationship with Obama were murdered in such a brutal fashion? Did you know that, brother? Meaning that Jeremiah, they covered and caped for Obama, but Obama never ever said, "Hey, y'all, I needed to make it here. I got y'all now." He never did it. A lot of people, man, just don't ask him. Just little Obama, he's gonna get us. He's got us. He's just got to get in. Bullshit. It's
He
a
did.
game that all the liar blacks who are traitors make other black folks stand down, don't demand anything. I've got to like ignore and neglect and abuse you guys to show white people how tough I am. Do you realize no white politician is vicious to their base and survives? It never happens. If you don't deliver what you promise white folks, they're coming for you. We're the
Mm.
only people that says you can rape us, abuse us, and leave us on the side of the road. And you know what? We'll give you
The key to the city.
a rain check to hit us up again if you don't finish us off.
So he denounced Jeremiah Wright more than he denounced Bill Ayers.
He never denounced Bill Ayers.
Wow.
Bill Ayers ghost wrote his books for him. Obama hasn't written anything. He's out of office now. What has he written? He's been out. Where are his memoirs?
Well, he's got that legacy center where they're gentrifying all those great Chicagoan people.
And there are no jobs or opportunities or anything for people in the community. He hates black people. And I always remind people that I had a chance to hear Obama say he didn't care a damn about black people back in 1988. And everything I've seen in the succeeding 32 plus years has been a man that didn't give a damn about black people. And Obama's in the Boule, and the Boule love him because they don't care about us either. And you see it with Kamala Harris, um, who, who, okay. I was just talking to a friend. I won't say who, but he has a ex or whose ex-husband was a cocaine user. And guess who that cocaine user's friend was? Kamala
Kam-
Harris.
Kamala. I don't even know. Don't even know
Kamala
who that.
Kamala is the proper name. Kamala is the name. We say Kamala to make it sound like it's black. That's again black women and wishful thinking, like they're wishing that the guy that beats and abandons them is going to be a simp. Then they won't respect him. How dare you stay in love and take care of me? I'm not a white woman. I got this, right? Anyway, Obama and Kamala are both frauds.
At least Willie Brown got something out the deal from Kamala.
Well, I don't know. Not really. Not in comparison to what the white gentleman has. He's got international reach for his corporate concerns and covering for his corrupt business dealings. Willie Brown got some, how can I say, reheated TV dinner sex. Uh,
You there, Doctor Short?
yes, I'm there. Willie Brown got some extramarital sex that he probably could have gotten for a lot less and probably fresher. Um, he got nothing. And most simps who think just penetrating someone a few times is a big win. If it doesn't leave you a legacy, black men, it's like a wildcatter drilling a dry hole. You sure got a hole, but you didn't get a gusher.
So, Doctor Short, I had asked you about a week ago off air, and I know you. And it was crazy because I don't know why I never asked you on air this question about W.B. Du Bois. Did he know what he was doing?
Well, if he didn't know what he was doing, it makes no difference. If I'm flying an airplane and I'm drunk or high, sort of like that Denzel Washington movie, I think called Flight, I'm responsible for the souls of the people on that plane. And if I cause it to crash, whether I intentionally or unintentionally did it, I am responsible. Our people have a fundamental problem, or not. We are like white people. We cop out. White people blame everything on other races. We blame everything on white people. We never ever take stock that this is us. So I want to remind people that Du Bois, he was brilliant, but there are a lot of people that are brilliant that don't do the right thing. For all the black people that have a damaged ego and inferiority complex, and you need a black person to study in Germany and in Europe and to have white approval that black people are too smart. This is a sickness. Then Du Bois is sort of like an idol to them, and his little curled up mustache, and he's not too dark, and he was smart, and he went to Harvard, and that's all of these things. People need all this when you hate your own guts, as do most black people, and they're ungrateful. Black people are God haters. We hate God. He let white people kick us in the ass and fuck us over. So we hate God and we hate ourselves. And so we need people like Du Bois that white people respect and have achieved things in white organizations and institutions. And that somehow makes it a little easier to get through life being black and worthless. I don't see black people that way, but many of our people see ourselves that. And in particular, the whiter you are, the better you are. The more you are like European people, the more decent you are. And it's a pretty sickening way to go through life. Alien self psychology, black self hatred, Stockholm syndrome, whatever you want to call it. It's just a conundrum of garbage. So we don't like who we are, what we look like, who we are. We're always trying to find something to defend our damaged egos that we feel bad that we aren't white. They don't love us. They won't like us. They won't let us be. So, and we 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 need to find someone that could walk amongst them. And he was the only black in the class, and he could withstand the abuse of the professors. And he gets his degree, and he's in Germany, and he's in France, and he's okay. I'm not knocking any achievement. But there are a whole bunch of us that have been the only black people in classes and done well, and but it's not just him. And we need to remember that Du Bois made a lot of mistakes. Every decade, he seemed to screw up constantly. What he was saying about Booker T. Washington was only half true. Howard University, which gets its federal appropriation every year, Howard University gets money from the government, about $400 million. In case you didn't know that,
Wow.
maybe they get more. It may have gone up because of Trump, unless Biden took some of it back. Let me say, do you know who got the appropriation for Howard University?
Who?
Not Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. And yet they'll tell you Booker T. Washington was against elite black education. Booker T. Washington was a Christian. Booker T. Washington was a mulatto, just like Du Bois was. But you've got Hampton University, you've got Tuskegee University, you've got Howard University, and more. You have the National Businessmen's League, National. What did Du Bois leave behind?
The talented tenth.
No, I mean, no, something institutional. Du Bois didn't leave much. You have his books, you have people who are proud of how smart he was and how he did this, that, and the other, and he made black people feel good. It's writing, it's books. He left a legacy, something, but in comparison to Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington's like a dude who impregnated a woman who had octuplets. And Du Bois is like a premature ejaculation. Sure, he did something. I guess that counts, right? It made it out. It made it out of the testicles and it came out. So something came out. But who remembers a preemie? And who can forget octuplets? Booker T. Washington stood up against genocide in the Congo and got black ministers to confront racist President Franklin Roosevelt, which ended the United States support for the Congo Free State, in which 15 million black people in Africa were killed. Du Bois played a role in that. I'm not Du Bois, Booker T. There's nothing that Du Bois did comparable for the butchery in the Congo. Nothing. He may have mentioned it. Think about that. The biggest genocide in the world going on when Du Bois did have a name and there was an NAACP and all of this, Du Bois didn't do much. Booker T did something. Du Bois did nothing. There was slavery in Liberia. Du Bois was friends with the slaveholding class. There was slavery in Manchuria, aka Manchukuo, under Japanese occupation. Du Bois admired the Japanese. Du Bois went to Russia at the height of the mass killing Ukrainians. He admired the Russian system at killing millions of people, starving them to death. By the way, Ukrainians, it's called the Holodomor. At least 7 million people starved to death between 1932 and 1937. Du Bois and them didn't see anything wrong. Du Bois never complained about the Russian communists betraying all the black people that went to Russia. Du Bois actually initially admired what was going on in Germany, not the hatred of Hitler, but the German people getting themselves fired up. And Du Bois was an early supporter of Margaret Sanger, who said that black people were human weeds that shouldn't exist. Du Bois actually published for Margaret Sanger and her birth control review alongside Germans who mass murdered black people in Namibia and later would sterilize and kill black people in Germany. Some 50,000 black people died under the Nazi rule. It's very interesting that Du Bois asked to serve in the United States military. In exchange for getting a rank, he would spy on black people that weren't loyal to the United States. Du Bois also supported one of the most racist presidents in the history of the United States. Du Bois supported, over the objections of other black people, Woodrow Wilson. Du Bois was in China and was a great admirer of Mao Zedong. He was even there around the time of the Great Leap Forward, in which up to 100 million Chinese were starved to death by Chairman Mao. But he was a communist, and Du Bois was a communist, so that's the 50s. So I could do each decade, just a real major fuck up by Du Bois. And trying to figure out, how is he not getting this? Let me do something else. Let me just bring it back to America for all the people who are shallow. In the 1930s, when black people were starving and dying, and you asked, when did black people become Democrats in the previous conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the black economy collapsed in the 1920s, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created a thing called the Agricultural Adjustment Administration, the AAA. And what the AAA did was it gave money to white farmers, blacks weren't included. And so black farmhands, where the people took land out of production to get the prices for commodities to go up, that meant if I paid people not to grow cotton, then all the cotton pickers have no wages. Am I right? The money was put in the hands of the whites in the South, which meant some of that money was supposed to go to field hands. Do you think it went to the field hands? It didn't. Instead, the whites invested in mechanizing buying cotton picking machines and so forth. So what ended up happening is black folks from, say, 1929 all the way up until World War II, there were a lot of black folks that went years without having any kind of an income at all. And they were starving in various places in the country. So you know what they did? The only way that you could get to eat, sometimes you would flee the South and